here are some interesting facts and historical contexts about The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. 1. Published in 1911. The Secret Garden was first published as a serial in the American Magazine in 1910, before being released as a complete novel in 1911. It is considered one of Frances Hodgson Burnett's most famous works and a classic of children's literature. 2. Inspired by Burnett's own life. Gardens in her life. Burnett loved gardening and found solace in creating and tending gardens. She often referred to her own garden as her joy and healing space, which influenced the detailed and vivid descriptions of the garden in the book. Personal loss. Burnett experienced personal tragedies, including the death of her son Leano from tuberculosis in 1890. This loss deeply impacted her, and themes of grief, healing, and renewal in the book may reflect her own emotional journey. 3. A reflection of Edwardian England. The novel captures the social and cultural aspects of Edwardian England, a period of great change. It explores themes like class divisions to characters like Mary, Dickon, and Colin, colonialism, Mary's early life in India, and the shift from rigid Victorian values to a more progressive Edwardian mindset. The manor's gloomy isolation symbolizes the Victorian past, while the garden's revival signifies the optimism of the Edwardian era. 4. Colonial influence. Mary Lennox is introduced as a spoiled, neglected child of British colonial parents in India. This setting reflects the British Empire's reach during Burnett's time and critiques the neglectful parenting practices of many British expatriates. The portrayal of Mary's transformation after leaving colonial India suggests a critique of the alienation and detachment often associated with colonial life. 5. Influence of the Back to Nature movement. The book aligns with early 20th century movements advocating a return to nature and the healing power of the natural world. These ideas were growing in popularity, influenced by thinkers like John Ruskin and William Morris, and were part of broader cultural shifts toward valuing physical health and outdoor activities. 6. Revolutionary depiction of children. At the time, children in literature were often portrayed as idealized or moralistic figures. Burnett broke away from this tradition by creating complex, flawed, and relatable child characters, such as the self-centered Mary and the tantrum-prone Colin, both of whom undergo significant personal growth. The book emphasizes the importance of allowing children to explore, learn, and grow independently. 7. Early representation of disability and healing. Colin Craven's character addresses the stigmas surrounding disability and illness in Edwardian society. His recovery through exposure to nature, friendship, and physical activity challenges the prevailing attitudes that associated chronic illness with weakness or inferiority. The idea that emotional well-being and physical health are interconnected was ahead of its time and resonates with modern ideas about mental health. 8. The symbolism of the garden. The Secret Garden symbolizes rebirth, transformation, and healing. Its revival mirrors the emotional and physical growth of Mary, Colin, and even Mr. Craven, who finds solace in reconnecting with his son. The garden also has biblical connotations, evoking images of the Garden of Eden, with its themes of innocence, renewal, and a return to harmony. 9. A feminist undertone. Although subtle, the book contains a feminist undertone in its depiction of Mary. Unlike many female characters in children's literature of the time, Mary is independent, assertive, and takes an active role in changing her own life and the lives of others. 10. Enduring popularity and adaptations. The Secret Garden has never gone out of print since its publication and has been adapted into numerous films, television series, stage plays, and even musicals. Each adaptation highlights different aspects of the story, reflecting its timeless appeal. It remains a favorite for its universal themes of hope, resilience, and the power of nature to heal both body and spirit. 11. Criticism of British parenting norms. The novel critiques the cold and distant parenting style common among the British upper classes of the time. Mary's parents, who neglect her entirely, serve as a stark contrast to the nurturing environment she finds at Misselthwaite Manor. 12. Frances Hodgson Burnett's legacy. In addition to The Secret Garden, Burnett is remembered for other classics like Little Lord Fauntleroy and A Little Princess. Her ability to blend realistic characters with fairy tale-like settings cemented her legacy as a pioneer in children's literature. 13. Frances Hodgson Burnett's dual cultural influence. Frances Hodgson Burnett was born in England in 1849 but emigrated to the United States at the age of 16. This dual cultural background is reflected in The Secret Garden, with its mix of British settings and American ideals like self-reliance, individuality, and optimism. Her ability to bridge these two cultural perspectives allowed her to appeal to both British and American audiences. 14. Victorian gardening craze. During Burnett's lifetime, gardening was experiencing a surge in popularity, particularly among the middle and upper classes in England. The walled garden, a central motif in the novel, would have been a familiar concept to readers, as these gardens were often found on large estates. The emphasis on cultivating flowers and plants in the novel mirrors the Victorian and Edwardian fascination with botany and horticulture. 15. Influence of Christian Science and the New Thought Movement. Burnett was influenced by Christian Science and the New Thought movement, both of which emphasized the mind's ability to influence physical health. These ideas are evident in Colin's transformation. His belief in his own strength and the healing power of positive thinking are central to his recovery. The novel subtly integrates these spiritual and philosophical concepts, presenting them in a way that was accessible to readers of all ages. 16. The Industrial Revolution's Shadow. The novel contrasts the industrialized, polluted cities of England with the natural, unspoiled beauty of the Yorkshire moors and the Secret Garden. This reflects the anxieties of the late Victorian and Edwardian eras, as rapid industrialization led to concerns about urbanization and its negative effects on health and well-being. The rural setting of the story serves as a romanticized escape from the industrial world, emphasizing the restorative power of nature. 17. The rise of women's roles in literature. At the time The Secret Garden was written, female authors were gaining prominence, but many women's roles in literature were still confined to secondary characters or traditional archetypes. Burnett broke new ground by creating Mary Lennox, a flawed, headstrong, and ultimately transformative heroine. Mary's journey of self-discovery and empowerment reflected the changing roles of women in society during the early 20th century, as suffrage movements were gaining momentum. 18. Use of dialects. Burnett's use of Yorkshire dialect in the speech of characters like Dickon and Martha was unusual for children's literature at the time. This inclusion added authenticity to the story and highlighted the class differences between Mary and the working-class characters. By showing the wisdom, kindness, and resourcefulness of these characters, Burnett subtly critiqued class prejudices. 19. Child psychology in literature. At the time The Secret Garden was written, there was growing interest in child psychology, spurred by the work of thinkers like Sigmund Freud and G. Stanley Hall. Burnett's portrayal of Mary and Colin's emotional growth and transformation reflects a deep understanding of children's inner worlds. The novel was ahead of its time in showing how neglect and trauma can affect children, as well as the importance of nurturing and love in their healing. 20. Symbolism of the moor. The Yorkshire moor, a stark and wild landscape, serves as both a physical and symbolic element in the novel. Its vastness and untamed beauty represent freedom and the possibility of transformation. For Mary, the moor is both a contrast to her previous life in India and a metaphor for the personal growth she experiences. 21. Parallel themes with other literary works. The Secret Garden shares thematic similarities with Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, particularly in its depiction of a mysterious mansion on the moors, themes of isolation, and the eventual emotional awakening of the characters. It also parallels Frances Hodgson Burnett's earlier work, A Little Princess, in its exploration of neglected children finding strength and independence through adversity. 22. Impact of the First World War. Although The Secret Garden was written before World War I, its themes of healing and renewal resonated deeply with readers in the post-war period. The garden's revival mirrored the collective hope for rebuilding and recovery after the destruction and trauma of war. 23. A pioneering work in ecotherapy. The novel is often cited as an early example of ecotherapy. The idea that time spent in nature can heal both the body and mind. This concept has gained scientific backing in modern times, but Burnett was ahead of her era in portraying the therapeutic benefits of connecting with the natural world. 24. The robin as a symbol. The robin in the secret garden serves as a guide and a symbol of nature's wisdom and gentleness. Birds, particularly robins, were often seen in Victorian and Edwardian literature as emblems of hope, renewal, and spiritual guidance. 25. Burnett's wealth and fame. Frances Hodgson Burnett was one of the wealthiest and most famous female authors of her time. Her ability to vividly portray lush settings, whether gardens or grand homes, reflected her own love for opulence and beauty, which she cultivated in her personal life. 26. The evolution of Mary Lennox. Mary's transformation from a spoiled and selfish child to a compassionate and caring person mirrors the garden's restoration. Her character arc is a subtle commentary on the importance of environment and nurture in shaping a person's character and values. 27. Themes of death and rebirth. The novel is steeped in themes of death and rebirth, from the untended garden coming back to life to Colin's recovery and the character's emotional growth. These themes reflect both personal and universal cycles of loss and renewal. Thanks for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Like this video. It helps more people find these classic stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think.